The envelope sat on my kitchen table, still sealed, cream-colored with the bank's logo in the corner. It was a Tuesday morning in late September, and I was having my coffee the way I always did. I opened the envelope with the butter knife I'd just used on my toast. The first page looked normal enough. Gas station, $42. Grocery store, $127.89. The pharmacy where I picked up my blood pressure medication, $15 copay. I flipped to the second page, still chewing my toast, and that's when my world tilted sideways. Prestige Motors, Oak Brook, $47,850. I stopped chewing. The toast turned to sawdust in my mouth. $47,850 on my credit card, at a car dealership I'd never heard of in a town I'd never visited. My hands started trembling so badly the paper rustled. I set down the statement and pressed my palms flat against the table, trying to steady myself. My heart was hammering against my ribs like it wanted to escape. This had to be a mistake. Identity theft, maybe. Someone had stolen my card number, that's what this was. I grabbed my purse from the counter and dumped it out. Wallet, reading glasses, tissues, a roll of mints, my checkbook, and there. My credit card, right where it should be in the little slot behind my driver's license. I pulled it out and stared at it, as if the piece of plastic could explain itself. The number on the statement matched. It was my card, my account. I called the bank immediately, my fingers fumbling on the phone keypad. The hold music was cheerful, some jazzy tune that felt obscene given the panic flooding through me. First National Bank, this is Trevor speaking. How may I help you today? There's a charge on my statement, I said, my voice coming out thin and reedy. A very large charge that I didn't make. $47,000. I'm sorry to hear that, ma'am. Let me pull up your account. Can I have the last 4 digits of your card number? I gave him the information, then waited through another eternity of keyboard clicking. Yes, I see the charge here. Prestige Motors, September 12th. That's a recent transaction. I didn't make that purchase, I said, my voice firmer now. I need to report this as fraud. I understand your concern, Mrs. Whitmore. Let me verify a few things. Was your card in your possession on September 12th? I thought back. September 12th. That was 2 weeks ago. Yes, I believe so. I mean, it's been in my wallet. I use it regularly for groceries and gas. And do you live alone, ma'am? Yes, I'm a widow. It's just me. Has anyone else had access to your card? A family member, perhaps? Sometimes these situations turn out to be authorized users or family members who... No, I interrupted. No one has access to my card. This is fraud. Someone stole my information. But even as I said it, something cold was creeping up my spine. A memory, fuzzy around the edges, trying to surface. Ma'am, our records show the card was physically present for this transaction. It was swiped at the point of sale, not entered manually, and the signature on the receipt matches the signature we have on file for you. My mouth went dry. That's impossible. Let me email you a copy of the receipt with the signature. Can you confirm the email address we have on file? He read it back to me. I confirmed it. Then I sat there, staring at my laptop screen, waiting for the email to arrive. When it did, I clicked it open with a sense of dread so heavy it felt like drowning. The receipt loaded slowly, and then there it was. A purchase agreement for a 2023 Honda CR-V, color pearl white. And at the bottom, a signature that looked exactly like mine. But it wasn't mine. I knew it wasn't. I would never. And then the memory surfaced, sharp and clear as broken glass. 3 months ago, a Sunday afternoon, Vanessa, my daughter-in-law, had come over for lunch. She'd been so sweet that day, so attentive. She'd brought flowers and a lemon cake from the bakery I loved. We'd eaten on the porch, and she'd asked me about Gerald, about our early years together. She'd seemed genuinely interested, and I'd been so hungry for that connection, for someone in the family to really see me. After lunch, she'd asked to borrow my credit card. "Just for a few days, Mom," she'd said, using that name she only called me when she wanted something. My card was compromised and the bank is sending a replacement, but I have some bills that need to be paid immediately. I promise I'll pay you back as soon as my new card arrives. It would just be groceries and utilities, nothing major. I'd hesitated. Something in me had resisted. Some instinct I'd learned to ignore because I didn't want to be the difficult mother-in-law, the suspicious old woman who didn't trust her own family. "Please, Mom," she'd said, her eyes wide and pleading. "I'm so embarrassed to even ask, but Marcus's paycheck doesn't come until Friday and the electricity bill is due tomorrow. I don't know what else to do, so I'd given it to her. I'd handed over my credit card to my son's wife, and she'd promised to return it within the week. She'd returned it 5 days later, slipping it back into my purse during another visit. "Thank you so much," she'd said. "You saved us." "I paid you back. I transferred money into your checking account this morning. You should see it clear in a day or two. I checked my account obsessively for a week. No transfer ever came. When I'd finally worked up the courage to ask her about it, she'd looked confused. "Oh, Mom, I definitely sent it. Let me check with my bank. Sometimes these things take longer than they say. That had been 2 months ago. I'd never seen the money, but I'd also never pushed. I told myself it was probably just a mistake, a banking error, that it would sort itself out. The charges she'd made, $200 here, $350 there, hadn't seemed worth damaging our family relationship over, but $47,000 for a car. I picked up the phone and called Trevor back. "I know who made this charge," I said, my voice hollow. "It was my daughter-in-law. She borrowed my card months ago." "I see. So this was an authorized use of the card?" No, I authorized her to use it for groceries and utilities, not for a car, not for $47,000. "I understand, Mrs. Whitmore. But legally, if you gave her access to the card, even temporarily, it becomes difficult to—" "She forged my signature," I said. "I never signed for this car. I never agreed to this purchase." There was a pause. "Ma'am, I'm going to transfer you to our fraud department. They'll need to investigate this further. But I should let you know, cases involving family members can be complicated. You may need to file a police report, against my own daughter-in-law, against my son's wife." The call transferred, and I went through the whole story again with someone named Patricia in fraud prevention. She was sympathetic, but firm. They would investigate, but I needed to understand. If Vanessa had been in physical possession of my card, if she'd used it multiple times over months, it would be difficult to prove this specific charge was unauthorized. "The best thing you can do," Patricia said, "is file a police report for theft and identity fraud. That creates a paper trail. We'll need that documentation to dispute the charge." After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen for a long time, the credit card statement spread out in front of me like evidence at a crime scene. The morning sun had shifted, and now it was shining directly through the window, making the paper almost too bright to look at. $47,850. The number kept repeating in my head like a drumbeat. That was nearly a year of my Social Security income. That was the money I'd been saving for emergencies, for medical expenses, for the inevitability of growing old and needing care. And my daughter-in-law had spent it on a car. I didn't call Marcus right away. I should have, but I couldn't. Instead, I sat there at my kitchen table until the coffee in my mug went cold, until the morning sun climbed higher and the shadows in the room shifted completely. I kept picking up my phone, setting it down, picking it up again. This was my son. My only child, the baby I'd carried for 9 months, the toddler whose nightmares I'd soothed, the teenager whose college applications I'd proofread line by line, the young man who'd stood beside me at Gerald's funeral and promised, "Mom, I'll always take care of you." When had that promise broken? When had I become someone whose money could be stolen, whose trust could be weaponized? I finally called him at 2 p.m. He answered on the 4th ring, his voice distracted. "Hey, Mom, what's up? I'm kind of in the middle of something. Marcus, I need to talk to you about something serious." My voice sounded steadier than I felt. "It's about my credit card." A pause. "Your credit card?" The one Vanessa borrowed from me 3 months ago. The one she was supposed to use for groceries and utilities. Another pause. Longer this time. I could hear muffled sounds in the background, maybe a television or voices. Okay, what about it? There's a charge on it for almost $48,000 from a car dealership. Marcus, did Vanessa buy a car on my credit card? The silence that followed was answer enough. Mom, he finally said, and his voice had changed. It was careful now, measured. Look, I can explain. So she did. My hands were shaking again. She bought a $47,000 car using my credit card without telling me. It's not like that. She was going to tell you. We were going to tell you together. We just needed to wait for the right time. The right time? I felt something hot and sharp rising in my chest. The right time to tell me you stole nearly $50,000 from me? We didn't steal anything, Mom. Jesus, it was a loan. We're going to pay you back. A loan requires asking permission, Marcus. This is theft. Don't be so dramatic. His voice was getting harder, defensive. You know Vanessa's car died, the transmission completely went, and it would have cost more to fix than the car was worth. She needed transportation to get to work. What were we supposed to do? You were supposed to ask me, I said, my voice rising despite my best efforts to stay calm. You were supposed to discuss it with me like adults. You don't just take someone's credit card and buy a car. That's not how this works. We knew you'd say no. The bluntness of it hit me like a slap. So you did it anyway. Mom, you have to understand, Vanessa's been so stressed. Her job is 40 minutes away, and she had to keep borrowing her sister's car, and it was just getting impossible. We needed to act fast. With my money, we're going to pay you back. Every cent. We've already started setting aside money from each paycheck. How much have you set aside so far? Silence. Marcus, how much? We've had some unexpected expenses come up. Vanessa's mom needed some help with her rent, and then there was the wedding we had to go to in Cleveland, and so nothing. You've set aside nothing. We're working on it, Mom. These things take time. I closed my eyes. Whose car is it registered to? What? The car. The Honda. Whose name is on the title? Another pause. I don't know. Vanessa handled all the paperwork. I need you to find out. I need to know if this car that was purchased with my money, without my permission, is at least in my name. Why does that matter? Because if it's not, then this isn't a loan, Marcus. This is theft, plain and simple. You're being ridiculous. His voice had turned cold now, that tone he'd used as a teenager when he was cornered and knew he was wrong. After everything we do for you, all the times we invite you over, all the dinners Vanessa cooks for you, this is how you react? Like we're criminals? You took $47,000 from me without asking. We were going to tell you. And honestly, Mom, would it kill you to be a little generous? You're sitting on all of Dad's life insurance money, living in that paid-off house, and we're out here struggling with rent and student loans, and that money is for my retirement, Marcus. For my care when I'm too old to manage on my own. It's not extra money. It's not spending money. It's survival money. Yeah, well, maybe if you hadn't been so selfish all these years, so focused on your own comfort, you'd understand that family helps family. The words landed like stones in my chest. Selfish. After I'd raised him alone for 5 years after the divorce, after I'd worked 2 jobs to keep him in the good school district, after I'd emptied my own retirement account once before to help pay for his wedding. I want to talk to Vanessa, I said quietly. She's not here. Then have her call me. Mom, I really think you need to calm down and think about this rationally before you... Have her call me, Marcus. Today. I hung up before he could respond. My hands were trembling so badly I had to set the phone down on the table. I stood up, walked to the sink, and poured the cold coffee down the drain. Through the window, I could see Mrs. Chen next door in her garden, pruning her rose bushes. Everything outside looked so normal, so untouched, while my life was collapsing inside these 4 walls. Vanessa didn't call that day, or the next. On Thursday, 3 days after my conversation with Marcus, she finally texted me, "Mom, Marcus told me you're upset. Can we talk this weekend? I'm slammed at work right now." I texted back, "We need to talk now. Call me." The response came 20 minutes later. "I can't talk on the phone at work. Can it wait? I promise we'll sit down Sunday and explain everything." Sunday. That was 3 days away. 3 more days of sleeping poorly, of checking my bank account obsessively, of adding up numbers and realizing that even if they started paying me back immediately at a reasonable monthly rate, it would take them years, maybe a decade. I didn't wait for Sunday. On Friday morning, I drove to the address I had for Prestige Motors in Oak Brook. It took me an hour and a half to get there, and my hands were sweaty on the steering wheel the entire drive. I dressed carefully. My good navy pantsuit, the pearl earrings Gerald had given me for our 20th anniversary. I wanted to look like someone who had to be taken seriously. The dealership was enormous, all glass and chrome, with rows of shining vehicles and banners advertising summer sales. I walked into the showroom and asked to speak with a manager about a recent purchase. The manager was a man in his 50s with 2 white teeth and a firm handshake. His name tag said, Rick Pemberton. I explained that there had been a purchase on my credit card, and I needed information about the transaction. "Of course, Mrs. Whitmore. Let me pull up that sale." He typed into his computer, his fingers flying across the keyboard. "Yes, here it is. September 12th, 2023 Honda CR-V. Beautiful vehicle. One of our most popular models." "Who is the car registered to?" He squinted at the screen. "The registration shows Diane Mercer. Is that you?" The floor seemed to tilt. "No, I'm Eleanor Whitmore. Diane Mercer is my daughter-in-law's mother." Rick's smile faltered slightly. "I see. Well, the purchase was made with a credit card in the name of Eleanor Whitmore, but the vehicle registration went to Miss Mercer. So my credit card was used to buy a car for someone else entirely." "It appears so, yes." He was looking uncomfortable now, his salesman charm dimming. "Is there a problem with the transaction?" "I didn't authorize this purchase. I didn't even know about it until I received my credit card statement." Rick's face went carefully blank. "Ma'am, I need to be honest with you. This is a legal matter that's above my pay grade. The woman who made the purchase had your physical credit card. She signed the paperwork. From our perspective, the transaction was legitimate. Did she show identification? She would have had to, yes. Whose ID did she show?" He clicked through his computer. "According to our records, she presented a driver's license in the name of Eleanor J. Whitmore." I felt sick. That's my name, but it wasn't me. Rick leaned back in his chair, his expression sympathetic but guarded. "Mrs. Whitmore, what you're describing sounds like identity theft. I really think you need to speak with the police. We keep copies of all transaction documents, including the ID that was presented. If you file a police report, we'll cooperate fully with the investigation." "But the car. Can you tell me where it is now?" "I can't disclose that information without a legal request, ma'am." "Privacy laws. But if you work with law enforcement, they can subpoena those records." I drove home in a daze. Vanessa hadn't just used my card to buy a car for herself. She'd used it to buy a car for her mother. And somehow she'd presented ID with my name on it. Had she stolen my driver's license too? I'd checked my wallet a dozen times since this started, and my license was there. But maybe she'd taken it temporarily, made a copy, returned it. The level of planning this required, the premeditation. This wasn't a desperate act or a spur-of-the-moment decision. This was calculated fraud. When I got home, there was a car in my driveway, a pearl-white Honda CR-V. Vanessa was sitting on my front porch steps, her arms wrapped around her knees. She looked up when I pulled in, and for just a second I saw something flash across her face. Not guilt, not remorse, something closer to annoyance, like I was a problem she had to solve. But then her expression shifted, and suddenly she looked small and vulnerable, her eyes already red-rimmed as if she'd been crying. "Mom," she said, standing up as I got out of my car. "Mom, please." "Let me explain." I stood there in my own driveway, my keys still in my hand, staring at this woman who'd just stolen nearly $50,000 from me. She looked so small standing on my porch, her shoulders hunched, her hands twisting together. For a second, just a second, I felt the old instinct rise up in me, the instinct to comfort, to smooth things over, to make it all okay. Then I looked past her at the pearl white Honda sitting in my driveway like an accusation. "That's the car," I said, not a question. Yes. Vanessa's voice was barely above a whisper. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I know how this looks, but if you'll just let me explain." "Come inside." I walked past her and unlocked the door, my movements stiff and mechanical. She followed me in, and I heard her close the door softly behind us. I didn't offer her tea. I didn't ask her to sit. I just stood in my living room, still holding my purse, and waited. "I panicked," Vanessa said. She was crying now, real tears streaming down her face. "My mom was in such trouble, Mom. She was about to lose her apartment. She'd already gotten 2 eviction notices, and she needed a car to get to her new job, and I didn't know what else to do. You could have asked me." "I did. Remember? I asked you for help with my mom's rent last Christmas, and you said you couldn't afford it." I did remember that. Vanessa had asked me for $3,000 to help Diane with back rent. I'd said no because I'd already lent Marcus and Vanessa $8,000 the year before for their emergency fund, and I'd never seen a penny of it back. "So because I wouldn't give you $3,000, I said slowly, "you decided to steal almost $50,000? I didn't steal it. I borrowed it. I was always going to pay you back. Vanessa, borrowing requires permission. This is theft. You forged my signature on a car loan. You somehow used identification with my name on it. Do you understand that what you did is a crime? I used your credit card because I knew you'd say no if I asked." Her voice was rising now, tears still falling, but her tone shifting towards something sharper. "You're always so tight with money, so worried about your precious savings. Meanwhile, my mother was literally about to be homeless, and you couldn't spare a few $1,000s to help family." "Your mother is not my family." The words came out harsher than I'd intended, but I didn't take them back. Vanessa's face hardened. "Of course. There it is. The truth finally comes out. You've never liked my family. You've never thought they were good enough for your precious son." "This isn't about liking or not liking your family, Vanessa. This is about you committing fraud using my identity." "It's not fraud. God, why are you being so dramatic? It's a loan. We're family. Family helps each other." "Then where's the money you promised to pay me back from the first time you borrowed my card?" She blinked. "What?" 3 months ago. You borrowed my card for groceries and utilities. You said you'd transfer money to my checking account to cover it. I never saw that money. How much did you charge then, Vanessa?" "I don't know. A few $100s, maybe. And I did pay you back. I gave you cash, remember? At Marcus's birthday dinner. You gave me $50. Well, that was a start. I was going to give you more, but then things came up. How much was it, really? The first time you borrowed my card?" She looked away. "I don't remember exactly." I walked to my desk in the corner of the living room and pulled out the folder where I kept old statements. I'd gone through them after the car charge appeared, looking for anything suspicious. I'd found plenty. "June 4th, I read aloud. "Target, $347. June 7th, Nordstrom, $892. June 10th, Furniture Outlet, $1,243. June 15th, Jewelry Store, $567. Should I keep going?" Vanessa's face had gone pale. "Those were things I needed." "You stole over $3,000 from me in June alone, and you never intended to pay it back. That's not true. I was going to—" "Stop lying." My voice cracked like thunder, and we both flinched. I never raised my voice. In 40 years of marriage, in 34 years of being a mother, I couldn't remember the last time I'd actually yelled at someone. The silence that followed was deafening. I went to the dealership today, I said quietly. I spoke to the manager. He told me the car is registered to your mother, not to you, not to Marcus, to Diane Mercer. So this wasn't even about getting you a car because yours broke down. That was another lie. Vanessa's tears had stopped. She was just staring at me now, her jaw tight. My mom needed it more than I did, she said finally. My car was old, but it still ran. Hers was completely dead, and she can't afford... So you used my money to buy your mother a car. I knew you'd make it sound like that. I knew you'd twist it into something ugly. Vanessa, how did you sign for this car? The dealership said someone presented identification in my name. She hesitated. I might have borrowed your driver's license, just for a few hours. I had a friend who does graphic design make a copy, and then I put your real one back before you noticed. The room spun. You made a fake ID with my name on it. It wasn't fake exactly. It had all your real information. I just needed it for the paperwork. That's identity theft. That's fraud. Vanessa, do you understand? I had to stop and breathe, had to force myself to stay calm. Do you understand that you could go to prison for this? No one's going to prison. She was getting defensive now, her voice sharp. You're overreacting. We're family. This is a family matter. Just tell the credit card company you approved the purchase. Tell them it was a loan. Then Marcus and I will pay you back over time, and everything will be fine, except it won't be fine, because you've already proven you have no intention of paying me back, and the car isn't even in your name or Marcus's name, so I can't even repossess it to recoup my losses. Repossess. Jesus, Mom, listen to yourself. This is what you care about? Money over your family? This isn't about money, Vanessa. This is about you stealing from me. This is about you forging my signature and my identity and committing crimes using my name. I was trying to help my mother by destroying your mother-in-law. We stared at each other across my living room. Her face was flushed and angry, all traces of tears gone. She looked nothing like the sweet girl who'd brought me lemon cake 3 months ago, who'd asked about Gerald with such seeming interest. You know what? Vanessa said, her voice cold. Marcus warned me this would happen. He said if you ever found out, you'd make it into this huge thing. He said you were selfish with money, that you'd been that way his whole life. The words hit me like physical blows. Marcus said that. He said you wouldn't even help pay for his college, that he had to take out massive loans because you wouldn't touch Dad's life insurance money. That's not, my voice broke. That's not true. I paid for 2 years of his college out of pocket. He chose to transfer to a private school his junior year, and I told him I couldn't afford the difference. He decided to take out loans rather than stay at the state school. Well, that's not how he tells it. I'm sure it's not. Something was crumbling inside me. Something I'd been holding on to for so long I'd forgotten it was even there. The belief that my son loved me, that he appreciated the sacrifices I'd made, that he saw me as anything other than a bank account with a heartbeat. Where is Marcus? I asked. At work. Does he know you're here? She hesitated. I told him I was going to try to smooth things over. Smooth things over. I almost laughed. Vanessa, there's no smoothing this over. You committed a felony, multiple felonies. Stop saying that. God, you're so dramatic. Nobody's going to press charges. You're not going to press charges. You love Marcus too much. This isn't about Marcus. This is about you. I'm his wife. We're a package deal. If you do anything to hurt me, you hurt him. Is that what you want? To destroy your relationship with your only son? I looked at her standing there in my living room, so confident that I wouldn't act, that I couldn't act. That family meant I had to absorb this, had to let her get away with it because the alternative was too painful. And maybe she was right. Maybe I was about to destroy my relationship with Marcus. Maybe after today, he'd never speak to me again. But I thought about that credit card statement. I thought about $47,850. I thought about Vanessa making a fake ID with my name. I thought about her taking my card month after month, charging thousands of dollars, and never intending to pay back a cent. I thought about my husband Gerald, who'd worked 60-hour weeks so we could save for retirement, who'd been so careful with money not because he was selfish, but because he'd grown up poor and knew what it meant to have nothing. That life insurance money, that paid-off house, those were his gifts to me, his way of making sure I'd be okay after he was gone. And Vanessa had treated it all like a slush fund for her mother's convenience. "I want you to leave now," I said quietly. "Mom, I'm not your mom. I'm Eleanor, Mrs. Whitmore, and I want you out of my house. You're making a huge mistake." "Maybe, but it's my mistake to make." She stared at me for a long moment, and I watched her face cycle through emotions: anger, disbelief, calculation. Finally, she grabbed her purse from where she'd set it on my coffee table. "Marcus is going to be furious with you," she said. "Then I guess I'll deal with that. Don't say I didn't warn you. You do this, you file charges or whatever you're thinking of doing, and you lose us both. Forever. Is that really what you want?" I walked to the front door and opened it. "Goodbye, Vanessa." She walked past me, her heels clicking sharply on my hardwood floor. At the door, she turned back. "You're going to regret this. When you're old and alone and you need help, don't come calling us." "I'll keep that in mind." She left and I closed the door behind her. Through the window, I watched her get into that pearl-white Honda, the one my money had bought, and drive away. Then I sat down on my couch and let myself cry for the first time since this whole nightmare started. I called Marcus that night. It was after 9, late enough that I'd rehearsed what I wanted to say a dozen times, early enough that I knew he'd still be awake. He answered on the first ring. "Mom." His voice was flat, hard. "Vanessa told me about your conversation." "Marcus, I need you to understand." "No, you need to understand. What you said to my wife today was completely out of line. You basically called her a criminal." "She committed fraud, Marcus. She forged my signature. She made a fake ID with my name on it. She was trying to help her mother. And you know what? Maybe if you'd been willing to help family in the first place, she wouldn't have had to do things this way." I closed my eyes. "So this is my fault." "I didn't say that. You just did. You just said that Vanessa had to steal from me because I wouldn't give her money. I said she wouldn't have had to find another solution if you'd been more generous. There's a difference. Marcus, she stole $50,000 from me. It's a loan. Jesus, how many times do we have to say it? We're going to pay you back." "When? How? You told me you haven't set aside any money yet." "Because we've had expenses. Life happens, Mom. We can't just put everything on hold to pay you back immediately. But you could put everything on hold to buy your mother-in-law a car." Silence. Then, "You know what? I'm not doing this. I'm not arguing with you about this anymore. Vanessa made a mistake in not asking you first. Fine. We admit that. But the way you're treating her, the things you said to her, that's not okay." "What exactly did she tell you?" I said. "That you told her she wasn't family, that you called her a thief and a criminal, that you threatened her with prison." "I didn't threaten her. I told her the truth about what she did. Marcus, she made a fake ID with my information. She used my credit card for months without permission. This isn't about me being mean to Vanessa. This is about her committing multiple felonies." "There you go again with the felony talk." "Nobody's committed any felonies. This is a family situation and you're trying to make it into something it's not. Did you know she was going to use my card to buy the car?" A pause. Too long. "We discussed her mom's situation. Yes. That's not what I asked. Did you know she was going to use my credit card to buy a car?" "I knew she was handling it. I didn't ask for details." "So you knew." "You knew and you didn't stop her." "Mom, her mom was desperate. You've met Diane. She's had a rough life. She's finally got a stable job, but she needed reliable transportation. We were trying to help." "With my money. Money you stole. Borrowed." Marcus, I went to the dealership today. I spoke to the manager. The car is registered in Diane's name. Not yours, not Vanessa's. How exactly are you planning to sell it to pay me back if you need to? Silence again. You can't, can you? Because it's not your car. It's Diane's car, bought with my money, and there's no legal way for you to recoup that money unless Diane agrees to sell it and give you the proceeds. Diane would do that if we asked. Would she? Have you asked her? Not yet, but does Diane even know that her car was purchased with stolen money? It's not stolen money. What did Vanessa tell her mother? How did she explain this gift? Marcus's breathing was audible over the phone. I don't know exactly what Vanessa told her mom. That's between them. So Diane probably thinks Vanessa bought it with her own money, which means she has no idea that it's sitting on the back of $50,000 of credit card debt that I now have to pay. We said we'll pay you back. When, Marcus? When will you start? Because I checked my account. The minimum payment on this charge alone is going to be over $800 a month. With interest, if I only make minimum payments, I'll be paying this off for years, and I'll end up paying $60,000 or $70,000 total because of interest. Then we'll make the payments. We'll pay the credit card directly. Can you afford $800 a month? No answer. Marcus, can you afford $800 a month on top of your rent and all your other expenses? We'll figure it out. You haven't figured out how to pay me back the $3,000 Vanessa stole in June. You haven't figured out how to pay me back the $8,000 I lent you 2 years ago. What makes you think you'll figure out how to pay me $800 every single month? Because this is different. This is serious. We understand that now. It was serious then too, Marcus. It was serious when Vanessa first took my card without permission. It was serious when she racked up thousands in charges. But you didn't take it seriously then. Why should I believe you'll take it seriously now? Because, he trailed off, because we will. We have to. I sat there in my living room, the phone pressed to my ear, and felt something break open inside me. This was my son, my child, and he was defending the woman who'd stolen from me. He was making excuses. He was trying to reframe reality so that I was the villain for being upset about being robbed. Do you love me, Marcus? The question came out before I could stop it. What? Of course I love you. What kind of question is that? Do you respect me? Mom, don't do this. It's a simple question. Do you respect me? This isn't fair. You're trying to make this into some big emotional thing when it's just a financial situation that we're going to resolve. Vanessa told me that you said I was selfish with money, that I wouldn't help pay for your college. Is that what you think? A long pause. I think sometimes you prioritize money over people. The words landed like stones. I worked 2 jobs to keep you in a good school district after your father left. I paid for your braces. I paid for your car insurance. I paid for 2 years of college out of pocket. And then you stopped. Right when I needed you most. You chose to transfer to a school that cost $40,000 a year, Marcus. I was paying $18,000 a year at the state school. I told you I couldn't afford the difference. You chose loans over staying where you were because the private school had a better program, and that was your choice to make. But it doesn't make me selfish that I couldn't afford to pay for it. You had Dad's life insurance money. You had savings. That money was for my retirement, for my old age. It still is. And what about helping your son? Doesn't that matter? I did help you. I helped you constantly. But there's a difference between helping and funding every choice you want to make, regardless of cost. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Everything is about cost with you. Everything is about money. Because money is real, Marcus. Money is how I keep a roof over my head, how I pay for food and medicine and heat in the winter. I'm 67 years old. I don't have the option of making more money if I run out. What I have is what I have, and it has to last me the rest of my life." "You're not going to run out. You've got plenty. You don't know what I have." "Yes, I do. Dad's life insurance was $300,000, plus your savings, plus the house is paid off. You're fine, Mom." I felt cold suddenly. "How do you know how much the life insurance was?" "You told me." "No, I didn't. I never told you the amount. I said it was enough to be comfortable. I never gave you numbers." Silence. "Marcus, how do you know how much Gerald's life insurance was?" Vanessa might have seen some paperwork once, when she was helping you organize your files last year." "I never asked Vanessa to help me organize my files. You had her make copies of some documents. For your lawyer, remember?" "I did remember that." "Last November, my lawyer had asked me to send updated financial records for the trust I'd set up. Vanessa had offered to make copies for me at her office since my printer was broken. She looked through my financial records. She probably just saw the number while she was copying. It's not a big deal, but it was a big deal. It was a very big deal because it meant Vanessa had known exactly how much money I had. She'd known I wasn't broke. She'd known I could afford to pay off a $47,000 charge without going bankrupt. She'd known I was a mark. "Marcus, I need to go." "Mom, wait. I need to think. I'll call you later. Don't do anything crazy, okay? Don't call the police or anything. Let's just handle this within the family. Goodbye, Marcus." I hung up before you could say anything else. Then I sat there for a long time, my mind racing. Vanessa had seen my financial records. She'd known about the life insurance, the savings, the investments. She'd looked through my private documents and made calculations. This wasn't desperate. This wasn't impulsive. This was planned. I got up and went to my filing cabinet. I pulled out the folder labeled Important Documents and started going through it. Bank statements, investment accounts, insurance policies. I went through each one carefully, looking for anything unusual. It took me 2 hours, but I found it. My investment account, the one with most of Gerald's life insurance money, showed a withdrawal from March. $25,000 transferred to my checking account. I'd never made that withdrawal. I grabbed my laptop and logged into my checking account. I scrolled back to March. There was a deposit for $25,000 on March 15th. Then, 3 days later, a wire transfer out for the same amount. The wire transfer destination was labeled Diane Mercer. I stopped breathing. Vanessa hadn't just stolen $50,000 for the car. She'd stolen $25,000 before that. She'd somehow accessed my investment account, moved money to checking, and then wired it to her mother. $75,000 total. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely use the mouse. I kept clicking through statements looking for anything else. How far back did this go? January. Another withdrawal, $15,000. Same pattern. Moved to checking, then wired out. This time to something called VM Consulting, VM Vanessa Mercer. I felt like I was going to be sick. I called my bank's fraud department. It was almost 11 at night, but they had 24-hour service. I explained that I'd found unauthorized transactions on my investment account. The representative was patient, professional. She walked me through the transactions. Each one had been initiated online, using my login credentials. "Do you share your login information with anyone, Mrs. Whitmore?" "No, never." "Is it possible someone could have accessed your computer?" I thought about all the times Vanessa had been in my house over the past year, how she'd used my laptop to check her email when her phone died, how she'd offered to help me pay bills online when I was recovering from a bad cold. "Yes," I said quietly, "it's possible." "Mrs. Whitmore, I'm going to freeze your accounts immediately to prevent any further unauthorized access, and I strongly recommend you file a police report. What you're describing sounds like systematic financial theft." After I hung up with the bank, I sat at my kitchen table and made a list. Every transaction I could find that I hadn't authorized, every time Vanessa had borrowed my credit card, every suspicious withdrawal. The total came to $93,000. $93,000 stolen over the course of a year. I thought about Marcus's voice on the phone. Everything is about money with you. Number. This wasn't about money. This was about someone I'd welcomed into my family methodically robbing me blind. This was about my son defending her while she did it. At midnight, I was still sitting at that kitchen table when I heard a knock at my door. I looked through the peephole. It was my neighbor, Patricia Chen. She was holding a plate covered in aluminum foil. I opened the door. Patricia, it's late. I saw your light on. I haven't been able to sleep either. She held up the plate. I made too many cookies. Thought you might want some company. We'd been neighbors for 12 years, but we'd never been particularly close. Friendly waves, occasional small talk about the weather, nothing more. But I was so tired, so lost, and she was standing there with cookies and a kind expression, and I just broke. I'm in trouble, I said, my voice cracking. I don't know what to do. Patricia stepped inside, set down the cookies, and said, "Tell me everything." So I did. Patricia Chen listened to my entire story without interrupting once. She sat at my kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea I'd made, and let me talk. When I finally finished, when I told her about the credit card, the fake ID, the wire transfers, all of it, she was quiet for a long moment. "Eleanor," she finally said, "you know what you have to do." "I can't. He's my son. And he's letting his wife rob you blind while defending her for doing it. But if I report this, if I actually go to the police, Marcus will never forgive me. I'll lose him." Patricia looked at me with something like pity. "My dear, I think you need to consider the possibility that you've already lost him." The words hit harder than I expected. I put my head in my hands. "My husband's cousin did something similar," Patricia said quietly. "Not this much money, but enough. Borrowed and never paid back, made promises, made excuses, and the family kept making allowances because family is family. And you know what happened?" I looked up at her. She kept taking until there was nothing left to take. Then she moved on to someone else. Some people, Eleanor, they see kindness as weakness. They see trust as opportunity. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "You think if you just absorb this, if you just pay it and move on, that Marcus will appreciate it, that he'll realize what you sacrificed for him. But he won't. People like this, they'll just see it as proof that they can keep doing it. So what do? You protect yourself. You do what you'd tell any friend to do in this situation. You file a police report. You document everything. You let the legal system handle it. And lose my son in the process. Maybe. Or maybe you show him that there are consequences for actions. That love doesn't mean letting people destroy you." She stood up. "I have a lawyer. A good one. My daughter used him when she went through her divorce. He's fair, he's honest, and he doesn't charge for the first consultation. Would you like his number?" I took the number. I thanked her for the cookies, for listening, for not judging me. After she left, I sat alone in my kitchen until nearly 2 a.m, staring at that business card. Lawrence Chen and Associates. Family law and elder financial abuse. Elder financial abuse. That's what this was. The words on the card made it real in a way it hadn't been before. I was a victim of elder abuse at the hands of my own family. I didn't sleep that night. At 7 a.m, I called the number on the card and made an appointment for that afternoon. Lawrence Chen was Patricia's nephew, it turned out. He was in his 40s, calm and professional, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. His office was small but tidy, with law books lining the walls and family photos on his desk. I told him everything. He took notes, asked clarifying questions, and didn't look shocked by any of it. "Mrs. Whitmore," he said when I finished, "what your daughter-in-law has done is called elder financial exploitation. It's a felony in this state. The credit card fraud, the identity theft, the unauthorized wire transfers, each one is a separate criminal offense. I know, but she's family. And my son, I understand. These cases are always complicated when family is involved. But I need you to understand something. This won't stop unless you make it stop. People who do this kind of systematic theft don't suddenly develop a conscience. They escalate. What would happen if I reported it? The police would investigate. If they find sufficient evidence, and from what you've described, there's plenty, they'd likely press charges. Vanessa could face prison time. Your son probably wouldn't be charged unless we can prove he actively participated in the theft, but he'd certainly be questioned. And my money? You could potentially recover some of it through restitution as part of a criminal case. You could also file a civil lawsuit. The car could be seized and sold, though that would require legal proceedings. Your credit card company might also reverse some charges once they see the police report and evidence of fraud. How long would all of this take? Months, possibly years for full resolution. These things don't happen quickly. I looked down at my hands. They looked so old suddenly, wrinkled and spotted with age. When had I gotten old? What if I don't report it? What if I just cut them off? Cut off their access to my accounts, change all my passwords, tell them we're done. Lawrence leaned back in his chair. That's certainly an option. But without legal action, you likely won't recover any of the money. And there's nothing stopping Vanessa from doing this to someone else. Her mother, another family member, whoever she can manipulate. That's not my responsibility. You're right. It's not. He pulled out a form and slid it across the desk. This is a police report template specifically for financial elder abuse. You don't have to decide right now. Take it home. Think about it. But Mrs. Whitmore, I've been practicing law for 15 years. I've seen cases like this more times than I can count. And I can tell you, the people who take action, who stand up for themselves even when it's hard, those are the people who eventually find peace. The ones who try to just absorb it and move on. They rarely do. I took the form. I thanked him for his time. He didn't charge me for the consultation. I drove home in a fog. When I got there, Marcus's car was in my driveway. He was sitting on my porch steps exactly where Vanessa had been 2 days ago. When he saw me, he stood up. "Mom, we need to talk." "Marcus, I'm tired. Can we do this another time?" "No." His voice was hard. "We're doing this now. You've been ignoring my calls. Vanessa's a wreck. And now I hear you've been talking to a lawyer?" I stopped halfway up my walkway. "How do you know about that?" Patricia Chen told her daughter, who told Vanessa's friend, who told Vanessa. Small world, Mom. Patricia had no right. Patricia's right that you're making this into a huge legal thing when it doesn't need to be. This is family business. We handle it in the family. The family has stolen $93,000 from me, Marcus. He blinked. What? $93,000? That's what I found when I went through all my accounts. The car was just the tip of it. Vanessa's been stealing from me for over a year. That's impossible. You're confused. Wire transfers to your mother-in-law. Wire transfers to something called VM Consulting, which I'm guessing is Vanessa. Credit card charges going back months, all unauthorized, all hidden. $93,000, Marcus. His face had gone pale. She did, and I have documentation of all of it. You're lying. The word hung in the air between us like poison. I'm lying? My voice was barely a whisper. Your mother is lying to you. You're exaggerating. You're making it sound worse than it is because you want to play the victim. I am the victim. I was robbed by your wife. She borrowed money from you. There's a difference. Then where is it, Marcus? Where's the money she borrowed? Why hasn't a single penny been paid back? We've been trying, but you won't give us a chance. You're threatening lawyers and police and because she committed crimes, multiple crimes. And you're standing here defending her instead of asking her why she did it. Because I know why she did it. Her mom needed help. We needed help. And you were sitting on hundreds of thousands of dollars doing nothing with it. That money is mine. I earned it. Gerald earned it. It's not your money to decide what to do with. I'm your son. Doesn't that mean anything? Being my son doesn't give you the right to steal from me? We were both shouting now, standing in my front yard. I saw curtains moving in windows up and down the street. Marcus's face was red, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. You know what Dad would say if he could see you right now? He'd be ashamed. Don't you dare. He'd be ashamed that you're choosing money over your own family, that you're willing to destroy your relationship with your only son over something we're trying to make right. Your father would be horrified that you're letting your wife rob his widow. My father would understand that family takes care of family. I did take care of family. I took care of you your entire life. I sacrificed everything for you. And this is how you repay me? By defending the woman who's stealing my future? Nobody's stealing your future. You're going to be fine. You have plenty of money. That's not your decision to make. You're going to die alone. You know that? His voice had gone cold, quiet. Somehow that was worse than the shouting. You're going to be a bitter, lonely old woman, and it'll be your own fault. Because when push came to shove, you chose money over the people who love you. The people who love me don't steal from me. We're done. He turned to walk away. Marcus, wait. He spun back. No, you want to treat us like criminals? Fine. You want to call lawyers and police? Fine. But don't expect me to be there when you need me. Don't call me when you're sick. Don't call me when you're old and scared and alone. You made your choice. Now live with it. He got in his car and drove away, tires squealing slightly as he pulled out of my driveway. I stood there in my yard, shaking until the sound of his engine faded completely. Then I went inside, closed all the curtains, and let myself cry for the second time in 3 days. The next morning, Sunday, I woke up to find my doorbell ringing at 8 a.m. I dragged myself out of bed, exhausted and hollow, and opened the door to find Vanessa standing there. But not alone. She'd brought reinforcements. Diane Mercer, her mother, stood next to her. And behind them were 2 more women I recognized from Marcus and Vanessa's wedding. Vanessa's sisters, I thought. Mrs. Whitmore, Diane said, her voice sugary sweet, we need to have a little chat about this misunderstanding. There's no misunderstanding. Please leave my property. Now. That's no way to treat family. Diane pushed past me into my house before I could stop her. The others followed. Suddenly, my living room was full of strangers. No, not strangers. Family. Marcus's family by marriage. All staring at me like I was the problem. We're here to help you understand, Diane said, settling onto my couch like she owned it. Vanessa told me what's been happening. How confused you've been, how you've been accusing her of theft when really she was just helping manage your finances. She stole from me. See? This is what I'm talking about. These accusations. Vanessa loves you. She would never steal from you. She used my credit card to buy you a car. She bought me a car as a gift, with her own money, that she'd been saving up. I stared at Diane. That's not true. Are you calling my daughter a liar? Diane's voice had an edge to it now. I'm stating facts. That car was purchased with my credit card. I have the statements. I spoke to the dealership. One of the sisters, the younger one, maybe 30, stepped forward. Mrs. Whitmore, we're worried about you. You seem really confused lately. Have you seen a doctor? Sometimes people your age start having memory problems. There's nothing wrong with my memory. Vanessa told us you've been forgetting conversations, forgetting that you agreed to help with expenses. Maybe it's time to consider that you need some help managing your affairs. I felt cold. This was coordinated. They'd planned this. Get out of my house. We're just trying to help, Diane said. No need to get hostile. I'm calling the police if you don't leave right now. Oh, the police. Yes, Vanessa told me you've been threatening that. Over what, exactly? Your daughter-in-law trying to help you pay your bills? She forged my signature. She made a fake ID. She wired money out of my investment account without permission. Or, the other sister said, you gave her permission and forgot. Which honestly seems more likely given your age and your situation. My situation. Living alone. Recently widowed. No support system. It's sad, really. And it's exactly the kind of situation where cognitive decline can go unnoticed. They were gaslighting me. All 4 of them, standing in my living room, trying to convince me that I was confused, that I was the problem. I have documentation of everything, bank statements, credit card statements. I've spoken to my bank's fraud department. I've spoken to a lawyer. This isn't confusion, this is theft. Documentation can be misinterpreted, Diane said smoothly, especially by someone who's not thinking clearly. I'm thinking perfectly clearly. Are you? Vanessa spoke for the first time. Her eyes were red but dry. Because Marcus told me about yesterday, how you screamed at him in your front yard, how you said horrible things about me. That doesn't sound like someone who's thinking clearly. I said true things. Awful, true things. See, this is what we're talking about. This hostility, this paranoia. These are signs, Mrs. Whitmore. Get out of my house. We're family, Diane said. We're trying to help you. The least you could do is... I walked to my phone and picked it up. I'm calling 911. You can leave voluntarily or you can leave in handcuffs for trespassing. Your choice. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Diane stood up, smoothing her dress. Fine. We tried. When you come to your senses, if you come to your senses, you know where to find us. But don't expect us to be quite so understanding next time. They filed out, Vanessa last. At the door, she turned back. I really did care about you, you know. I thought we could be real family. But you're so determined to see the worst in people. In me. I guess that's just who you are. Then she left, closing the door softly behind her.